Nicki Minaj was snubbed from the Grammys and will probably never, ever, ever, ever win one. What up, where's your boy Charles Brown back again, talking facts. Okay, so by now, we all know that Nicki Minaj is not in the 2023 Grammys nominations, if I'm not mistaken. We all heard that news yesterday, and she, rightfully so, is upset. But I want to talk about it to the people who don't normally necessarily know what's going on with these Grammy things and these Nicki Minaj things. It's a lot going on behind the scenes. But Nicki Minaj has effectively been banned. She has a shadow ban from the Grammy. She's actually blackballed. And her case is the definition of being blackballed, even though they're actually playing little kind of games with her to say we're going to nominate her, but she's actually not being nominated at all. And I'm going to break down why this is happening and why most of this is not most of it. And most of the time it is her fault, but sometimes Nicki has a real case. It's just how she handles these cases is what makes it worse. So I'm going to go all the way back to 2012 to see why it started with Nicki Minaj in the Grammys having problems. That's 10 years ago. 10 years ago in 2012, Nicki Minaj problem with the Grammys began. Let me read a little bit of this article, The Controversy. The religious aspect of Nicki Minaj's 2012 performance as Roman, her alter ego, she did a performance as Roman on the Grammys, February 14th, 2012, that supposedly offended the Catholic Church, right? It says that her debut performance with a short snippet of her alter ego, Roman Zelensky, had her rapping the beginning of Roman's revenge. After that, he continues next to a priest singing scratched lyrics from Roman's revenge, I Feel Pretty, then roars a quick burst, the room goes dark, and the screens show the exorcism of Roman. Right? It goes on to different quote unquote blasphemous things, and the Roman church got mad. But the reason that even happened in the first place is because she refused to cut the performance from her set that she was asked 2 days before by the showrunner, Ken Ulrich. I believe I'm saying his name right. Ken Ehrlich. I hope I'm saying his name right. So Ken Ehrlich, who's the producer of the Grammys, asked her to pull her show, to cancel it 2 days before, even though they were running ads with her likeness and her picture saying she was going to be in the Grammys. She said no, and this began the back and forth feud with these two guys, Ken and Nicki Minaj. She said, no, I'm not canceling it, which she rightfully shows. This is the Grammy. She's a big deal for her. She been preparing for months for this show, and they asked her 2 days before, allegedly because Whitney Houston passed away, and it was a sensitive time. And I think they didn't want to offend any viewers with religious beliefs, right? So let me move on. She went on, did the show. Not only did she do the show, she left in the Roman alter ego situation where it's a faux exorcism. And this didn't go over well with Ken Ehrlich. I might be saying his name wrong. It looks like Ehrlich to me, right? So Nicki went on and she went for 7 years to not bring it up, according to her, by Ken. She said she was bullied for 7 years. She decided in 2019, I believe it was based on something that happened with Ariana Grande, to actually speak upon this issue. She went on Queen Radio and said that this guy has bullied her for 7 years over this, and she wasn't going to stand for it no more, right? She had her fans started to go in on this guy as well, and it became a whole thing. So now you're in an issue with the producer of the Grammys saying that he bullied you, right? And Nicki's one, when she got Queen Radio, she was going in on everybody and she was hammering and wasn't letting stuff go. She was tweeting and her barbs were tweeting, and it got a little crazy. So from that point, she never, from my knowledge, I don't know if she was ever even nominated again, but I know she never received any Grammys. She does not to this day have a Grammy. Fast forward to 2022, and she actually does get nominated. She drops Super Freaky Girl, gets nominated, but then, quote unquote, was moved from the rap category, which she's competing against her peers, to the pop category, which she's competing against people who she has no chance of winning. In my opinion, this is a very blatant move to make sure you don't win that Grammy. She's going against Adele and people like that, Taylor Swift, like people like that. She's not going to beat these people. So she gets upset, which some people handle disappointment differently. Some people would have just ate it, right? Some people would have just been like, oh, well, let's see how it goes. Thank you for the nomination. Some people going to go to Twitter and go nuts and say, nah, y'all trying to play me. That's what Nicki Minaj did. And in doing so, she went on Twitter and she recorded a video, an angry video, and she was saying that she was getting railroaded and blackballed, and they were scared of the competition. Let me read you what happened from another article, and then we're going to talk about it. So Nicki Minaj sparked a trending conversation about the Recording Academy and how they place records for award nominations. She expressed dissatisfaction with the categorization of Super Freaky Girl from rap to pop in an Instagram live. Nicki used Drake as an example of an artist who shared the same critique in 2017 when Hotline Bling won a Grammy in the rap category despite being a pop song, which is the reverse of what was going on with her. Then she began to compare the sound, production, and delivery of lyrics in her songs listed in the rap and pop category, including Latto's Big Energy. Quote, if Super Freaky Girl is pop, then so is Big Energy, Nicki said on Instagram Live. If you move Super Freaky Girl out of the rap and put it in pop, do the same thing with Big Energy. Same producers on both songs, by the way. She added, let's keep it fair. Even when I'm rapping on a pop track, I'm still out rapping. Right? She said that. And then she went on to say, I have no problem being moved out of the rap category as long as we all are being treated fairly. If Super Freaky Girl has to be moved out of rap, then so does Big Energy. Anyone who says differently is simply a Nicki hater or a troll. I'd actually love to see a more street record win, male or female. Just saying, right? Right is right, quote unquote. And she is 100% right. Let me just start with that before we move any further into the big Latto response. She's right. If you're going to move that, but keep another song in with the same producers and the same style of beat, then you're showing your hand that you don't want this girl to win anything. So Latto responded, and rightfully so. You can't tell people how to respond and how to react when they're being called out, right? She wrote, damn, I can't win for losing. All these awards and noms, and I can't even celebrate. That's right. Soon as Nicki wrote that, you know what happened. The barbs went straight to this girl's thing and started adding her and started doing what they do, keeping that negative energy going, right? And this time it's not really negative energy. Low-key it is, but it's not, because she really just said a fact. Now, how she delivered it clearly is a negative. If you watch the video, she's mad, she's smacking lips and doing all kind of negative stuff. It just feels negative, let's be honest. So, but the message is what it was, right? The message is what it was. So she was right. Let me just be honest with you. But when you throw somebody else's name in the mix, she could have just said nobody's name. But she threw Latto in the mix. And apparently these two have been back and forth with Static for at least a year. They've been pretending to like each other, right? But behind the scenes, apparently Latto can't make no headway because she can't do anything right, because it's always some sub in her mind from Nicki. So she writes that, I can't even celebrate, which is true, because this is the happiest moment of her life, that she's getting involved with these Grammy noms. And she's being told now that she's being linked to Nicki Minaj being moved and her not. So now her win is her nomination has an asterisk because Nicki Minaj gave it to her. Nicki at that point releases a private text from Latto and calls her a Karen. This Karen has probably mentioned my name in over 100 interviews. Says she waited in line for Pink Friday with her Barbie chain on, bangs, pink hair. But today, Scratch Off decides to be silent. Rather than speak up for the black woman she called her biggest inspiration. Nicki tweeted. Now that right there is extremely petty, and it is extremely wrong to say she's supposed to go on her page and somehow start defending you. Somehow she's an artist now. She's not a fan no more. She's up for her own award. She's supposed to look out for herself. She doesn't know you anything. This is like Meek Mill saying Drake didn't tweet his album out. People perceive these things as slights because they have a problem with the person underlying that before that even happened. That's the only reason you write this. She has no obligation to you. She's not on your payroll. She's not on your team. There's mad artists that didn't go out and support Nicki Minaj's Twitter, Instagram live. I can name 100 artists, I'm sure she can too, that had nothing to say. But you went at this girl and called her a Karen, right? Of all things, right? She posted a screenshot of the text which says, I agree with you. However, because of where we left off, I don't think you need to bring my name and song up to prove your point. Which means they already had a back and forth that didn't go well. So this means this whole thing was already bubbling under Nicki Minaj's surface. She already had a back and forth with this girl privately, and they already weren't on the best of energy. After that, Latto goes in and she starts adding her. I wanted to speak up because, like I said, I do agree with the way you're going about it. I do agree, but the way you're going about it seems malicious after how we left off. So at that point, they started to go really hard at each other, and the phrase super freaky grandma was thrown out by Latto, who is up and coming, who's making a lot of noise, and by the Grammy nomination that she received, is showing that the noise is working and she's actually becoming a formidable problem, which Nicki Minaj has historically not been able to deal with or not like when these women start to be looked at or appear to be on her level in any kind of way, shape, or form. That's when the somehow subliminals and the cattiness and the pettiness seems to come out of nowhere for no particular reason. But let's move on. I digress. They started going back and forth, and now Latto is dragged in with these barbs and getting disrespected. But the funniest thing that came out of this was the super freaky grandma comment, which became a hashtag, and a lot of the enemies of Nicki Minaj ran with that hashtag and started to make it trending. They started to choose sides, and many of them started to choose Latto's side just because of the simple fact she was going at Nicki Minaj. So at that point, if you're a person that can vote on Grammys or you're a person who's involved with Grammys, you start to see a very ugly side that is directed at your organization. Because this whole beef is about the Grammys. So what's the first thing you're going to start doing is, oh, we're not going to stand for this. So for all of that noise you making about the Grammys and you're dragging our name and you're bringing these other rappers and you're putting all this energy, how about we don't give you no nomination for nothing? Pop, rock, nothing. Let's just dead the whole thing because we can. Which is the definition of blackballing and banning. But you have to think she has her own issues, but they have theirs too. And we are all humans, we're all people, and we're all going to do what we feel is best for our brand and ourselves. And mistakes or not, this is what they chose to do. And with that being said, Latto was nominated. She is nominated, and she is she's going to be voted on by the 13,000 Grammy voters who have a lot to decide in regards to who's going to get that Grammy, who's going to walk up on that stage. But the one thing they have taken down is Nicki, right? And the simple fact of the matter is there's more graceful ways to handle this, but we do have to acknowledge that from the very beginning, 10 years ago, she was in a particular position that wasn't going to work out in her favor when the producer of the show is telling you cancel your show that we've been telling people for months that you're going to do. That right there was the beginning of this whole thing, and now they're playing a very weird game with this woman, because the simple fact of the matter is, even though she did have a lot to say about them, a very, I don't want to say negative, but a very critical, she was criticizing them, their methods, right? They're now able to use that against her and start to turn the voters and the people that are involved with it against her as well. It's kind of a power that shouldn't be able to be exercised when you're saying we're just going to give awards for the best music, not for the best attitude or for the best person who we like. That's not how these awards are supposed to go. So I'm not going to go much longer on this because I think you get the gist of it. Nicki Minaj is lashing out, but this particular time she actually has a right to be upset with this process, and they clearly are blackballing her. And Latto is caught in the middle for no reason. I think a lot of barbs want to crucify Latto just because Nicki said so. They had no problem with this girl, and I think that out of nowhere now she's the enemy because she stood up for herself, which rightfully shows. Like when the Game stood up for himself against 50 Cent, when Rick Ross stood up for himself against 50 Cent, right? It's different people who are bullies who are expected to automatically win. And then when the person stands up for themselves, people are surprised. And the fans of that other person are going to attack a person that's just supposed to stand up for themselves. But that's what your mom told you when you were a kid. Stand up for yourself. If they punch you, punch back. So I'm going to say, so I think Latto did nothing wrong. And I read a lot of the back and forth. And most of it had nothing wrong on Latto's side. It felt like a person who was using their power against a smaller target. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is Nicki going to ever get a Grammy nomination? I'm telling you right now, she never will. And she not only, unless this guy is not there anymore, and unless the public outcry becomes something that they can't ignore. But I don't think the public outcry is a good outcry. It's a mad negative one. They're calling them racist, and they're saying that they need to be boycotted. The public outcry is not pro Nicki, is anti-Grammys, and that's the problem. So I don't think she's ever going to get nominated or ever get an award ever. I think it's done for her. But she should do like Drake and The Weeknd are doing and not submitting anything at all. So that's the other way to stop worrying about what the Grammys going to do, because they have no bearing on her career. But let me know what you think in the comments. Is Nicki doing it right or doing it wrong? And the super freaky grandma thing is hilarious, but not as hilarious as No Granny for Grandma. That is absolutely funny. No matter what side of the coin you're on, that's funny, right? I think that's hilarious because the simple fact, it's just so unexpected that they're running with this. She's not a grandma, right? Right? Nicki Minaj is gorgeous, right? She's beautiful, but that's just funny. And in and of itself, every time sometimes they get you, bro. They just got you. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is Nicki Minaj going about this wrong, and will she ever get that Grammy? And is Latto a problem? I don't know. I'm going to catch y'all on the flip side. CLBMG.com. I'm going to catch y'all next time. Go check out the new music. We just dropped some new stuff, me and the Ugly Professor. And Clash the Podcast every Wednesday. We go live. Me, Dante Fliz, and TJ. We talk about hip-hop. We'll probably address this. So I'll see you there. Peace.
CLB.